Today I'm going to talk about leadership and what it takes to be an effective leader. I've actually was just on a strategy day, and our chairman was talking about, it's not product, it's not process, it's fundamentally about people. And we're all in this room together today in our own rooms because it is about people. And the most important thing about dealing with people is having good emotional intelligence. And just in case, you're not completely convinced, I just want to share a couple stats with you. Norwich University ran a study that found that emotional intelligence accounts for 90% of the differences between what makes an outstanding versus an average manager. And PepsiCo found, and this is particularly important for all of us salespeople in the room, that sales teams led by managers with a high EQ outperformed the other teams by 20% year on year. So if that's an absolute reason why we need to all practice and develop our emotional intelligence. But what is emotional intelligence? It's about having high levels of self-awareness, self-regulation, empathy, and social skills. Now, for some of you, I'm sure this is completely natural, but for many of you, like me, it might sound quite daunting. But the good news is that unlike your IQ, you can actually develop your EQ over time and throughout your life. And this has been absolutely fantastic news for me because I was not born as the most emotionally intelligent person. Those of you who saw my last talk will know that I was just viciously competitive. And I've really struggled with empathy throughout my life. My husband refused to marry me until I stopped using the imperative and started saying please and thank you a bit more. And thanks to him, I've developed that. I'm much better at saying it, although I do sometimes still forget to thank my team for their contributions. And it's something I have to make a conscious effort for. So this journey of developing my emotional intelligence has been immensely freeing for me. And I have this compulsion to share my journey with others because I want everybody to feel as content and confident in themselves as I do. And to just have some of those sounds go away in your head. So what we're going to talk about today is apologizing properly, because it's basically a masterclass in emotional intelligence. It requires you to be self-aware and to be able to self-regulate, to have empathy and have highly developed social skills in order to do it properly. So I'm going to cover with you today is why it matters in leadership, why you need to say it even if you don't want to, and it actually benefits you almost more than anybody else, and how to say I'm sorry and mean it. I actually have a winning formula. So I first realized how much it matters in leadership when one of my, sorry, I was just reading I got distracted with the chat, so I have to stop reading this. One of the things that I first realized is I had a manager who was pretty much an alpha male, and we were in this leadership team meeting, and there was a big debate, and one of the other guys was not getting on board, and he basically said, you either get behind me in this decision or you just resign. And it was a pretty shocking moment. And he really, really meant it. And there was a lot of anger. And it just sent this current through the team and really upset the team. He immediately knew that what he said was out of order, but he just moved on with the conversation. And we all went back to our desks. We were working. There's a bit of chat going on, a little bit of instant message of what's happened. Then we just figured, well, that's just, the way he is. And then a couple of hours later, an email landed on our inboxes, and it was an apology. And he was just somebody that you never thought was going to apologize. And that showed me the power of an apology, and not just for me, but for the whole group, because it required all the traits that you look for in a great leader. It had self-awareness and empathy, took responsibility for your actions, and also a level of vulnerability. And it actually really increased my esteem for him because he did something that was hard, and he showed he was human, and he put the team ahead of his own discomfort. So maybe that might make you feel a bit like you want to start to apologize. But, it is a really hard thing to do. There's a lot of shame tied up into it. It's really hard to admit that you're wrong. But deep down, even if you know you've done something wrong, or at least 100% not right, you're still carrying that shame around with you. So the apology will let you be free. I learned how to apologize and have really seen this freedom and actually an urge to want to apologize properly from my children. So I have one little one who was born with a real perfectionist streak. No idea where he got it from. And he just would not apologize. And I was on the street with him, and I was bent down low, and it's just apologize, just say sorry. And his arms across, there's tears. It's I don't want to say I'm sorry, I won't. And I had this moment of realization of like, what am I doing? Why in the world are we, sorry, I have to stop reading these. Why in the world are you trying to shame and force this apology out of a child? There has to be a better way. So I did some internet research and I found this formula, and it really works. And the reason it works is because it creates space between viewing your actions as separate to who you are, and it takes some of the shame out of it. And it also makes you focus on the other person more than what you've done. And by focusing specifically on what you've done and the other person, it gives you some space to think through and be able to take responsibility. So here is how you do it. First of all, you don't need to apologize in the moment. I think this is one of my biggest learnings. You need to take some time to calm down and let the defensiveness play through and reflect on your actions. And then you need to take responsibility. Here's a big hint. If it starts with, I'm sorry you, like, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I'm sure we've all been recipients of that, it's not an apology. Or I'm sorry, but you really hurt, like, you really made me angry. It's not an apology. So it needs to start with, I'm sorry, I. And once you've done that, you're on your way. You can start with, I'm sorry, I did X. I imagine that you feel Y. In the future, I will do Z so it doesn't happen again. Will you accept my apology? And with that simple formula, you'll become an expert in apologizing. So in conclusion, remember these three things. Good leaders apologize when they've done something wrong. Your team will respect you for it. It's hard to admit your mistakes, but you'll feel better for doing it. And use this formula to make it easier. First, prepare for your apology and be clear on what you did. Then when you're ready to apologize, keep it short. Say, I'm sorry I did X. I imagine you feel Y. In the future, I will do Z. Will you accept my apology? So next time you need to apologize, embrace it as an opportunity to develop your emotional intelligence and strengthen your leadership skills. Thanks very much.